We're recording.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to RBCM at Outside. This is perspectives and Indigenous perspectives on a coastal forest. So welcome. My name is Liz Crocker, and I'm a learning program developer here at the Royal BC Museum. Well, I'm not at the Royal BC Museum today. The RBCM at Outside, we do these outdoor live webinar programs all around the Capital Regional District. And so the key is that we are live outside. So we have a pretty good connection here, but anything could happen. So stay with us. So at the Royal BC Museum, before the pandemic, I was sometimes doing a field tripper program where I was going out to outdoor locations and meeting with the community partners and sometimes our scientists and historians at the museum and having conversations about these outdoor spaces around the capital of British Columbia. And then since the pandemic's hit, we've been doing this series, RBCM Outside, because it's a little bit safer than all gathering together. And so once I get behind the camera with my special guest here today, I will put my mask back on, but while I'm talking to you today, I'm just gonna take it off for a little bit. I'm outside. I think Dr. Bonnie Henry would be okay with that. So, so if you've never been in one of these programs before, it is a webinar format. So I can't see or hear you, but you can interact with us through the chat. And I've got Jenny Arnold in the room, and she can help get questions to us. We're going to save time at the end of the program for questions. And we're also live on Facebook. So that's how you can interact through the chat on Facebook as well. And we do record this program and we'll put it up on our YouTube channel after the program. It should be up in a couple of days if you want to go back and watch it. And to let you know, the next RBCM at Outside programs, we have tried to do a mix between natural history and cultural kind of topics. But the next one is December 9th, Wednesday at 2 p.m. And we're going to be in Emily Carr's neighborhood. So I'm going to be with John Adams, historian John Adams, walking around and looking at some of the places where Emily Carr lived her life around the James Bay neighborhood, close to the Royal BC Museum. And then on the 23rd of December, I'm going to go up Christmas Hill, which is very close to downtown Victoria. And I'm going to be with one of the staff from the Swan Lake Christmas Hill Nature Sanctuary. Now that information is not up on the website yet, but it will be. So check back there for details. So that's December 23rd. All right, so without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today. So I'm going to be, for the next little bit, with Leslie McGarry, who I actually have the pleasure of knowing and working with at the museum. So Leslie McGarry has done education, has been an educator around Victoria for years and years, and had a very successful program at the museum called the Eagle Program, which many teachers in the area knew. It was very popular, always sold out, and thousands of school children have enjoyed that program. And since and more recently, Leslie has changed jobs, and but she is still 1 day a week on Mondays doing her Eagle program, but through digital field trips. So you can still, if you're lucky enough, get a spot for your class in one of Leslie's Eagle programs with us at the museum. However, that's only when she's not in her new role full-time with CRD Parks, which stands for Capital Regional District, if you're not from the Victoria area, where Leslie is now a cultural programmer at CRD Parks. And it just happened that she's the person that we get to visit with today in her new work location and in this beautiful park, which is Mill Hill Regional Park. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her and get my mask back on. And then at the end, we will have some time for questions. So let me flip it around. And I'm going to just give you the mic, Leslie. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everybody. This will be my first time representing the Capital Regional District regional parks. So please forgive my cheat sheets, but I really want to get this right and make sure that we provide the appropriate information for this particular tour. So here we go. For over 50 years, the Capital Regional District has offered visitors many opportunities to observe and experience and explore nature within the protected maintained lands and trails of forests, lakes, seasides, and mountains. Today, as we work towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, the CRD has recognized the need to include prehistory, pre-colonial history, and Indigenous perspectives within the 34 parks and trails. We are standing on the trail in one of those parks today. Welcome to Mill Hill Regional Park, a small protected tract of land that holds historic significance as being the site of the first lumber mill in British Columbia. Since the lumber mill designation by the Hudson's Bay Company in 1848, the land has changed hands several times, but became a protected CRD park in 1976. The park features large Garry oak stands with delicate spring wildflowers, Douglas fir forest, cedar wetlands bordering Millstream Creek, and a summit that offers a spectacular view of Esquimalt Harbor, Victoria, and the surrounding hills and mountains. And we should see that slide come up so you can take a look. It's well worth the journey to make your way up Mill Hill to the summit. It's just beautiful up there, especially in the springtime.
Not seeing the slide yet. Oh, here it comes. Almost up there. You can get oh, there we go. There it is. Oh, beautiful. I've done that walk and it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks, Adria. Okay, you can stop sharing your screen and we'll go back to Leslie. You just put your cursor, there we go.
Okay. Got a modern technology, gotta love it. Okay, but these lands also encompass an ancient human history spanning thousands of years. Leslie, Kwagiulth means welcome. Means my name is. My name is Leslie. Kwagiulth means I am from, and Tsakis is the name of the village I come from. You might know this place better as Fort Rupert. So I want to acknowledge that I am from the northern part of the island, which makes me a visitor here. We are standing on the lands of the Lekwungen people that we know of today as Esquimalt and Sanghees. And I humbly offer my gratitude for the opportunity to work within their territory, raise my family here in their lands, and they have always been gracious hosts. So, HCM. While archaeological evidence to date indicates seasonal access to this regional park by the Lekwungen peoples, it is more important to note that their relationship with the land comes from a sense of coexistence and connection, deeply rooted in harmony, respect, and gratitude. It is this sense of connection that guides their approach throughout the gathering of cultural and natural resources available within this region. Cultural protocols surrounding care and consideration are faithfully practiced. For example, take only what you need to support your village. It's not necessary to take all the fish out of a lake or all the deer from a meadow. Take what you need and then let the cycle renew itself, and there'll always be food in those same locations every year you can revisit. Hunting is only permitted when the ground is one color. That would be late fall when all the leaves have fallen from the trees, or after the first snowfall. The reason why this is so important is because every time you go hunting, you always want to go for a quick kill. You never want an animal to suffer in pain for any length of time. But if you happen to wound an animal, it's a lot easier to track and find if the ground is one color. This helps you from wasting a life. In the interest of conservation, reef nets are woven with a deliberate hole, allowing some of the salmon to escape. Everything is harvested with a specific purpose, and gratitude is an integral part of the process. This is how you establish and maintain a harmonious sense of relationship to everything around you. What we see here is a Douglas fir tree. Is a great example of a resource harvested with purpose. The wood is heavy, strong, fine-grained, and durable, making it ideal for dip net poles, spear shafts, and fire tongs. The bark is an exceptional source of fuel for the fires of winter gatherings because it burns hot and smokeless. The pitchy heartwood can be used to make torches that light the way to beaches for nighttime clam digging. The pitch can also be used as glue for patching holes in canoes and water containers. Okay. We have another image coming up showcasing the Douglas fir boughs.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Oh, the green is so beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you, Adrian. Got to go to the bottom of the screen.
Mhm.
There you go.
Okay, layers of those fragrant boughs can be used for bedding, and especially in wintertime. Okay, we're just going to move along here. This is the Western red cedar tree, or the tree is often referred to as long life giver. Many gifts come from this particular tree. The wood has a unique quality of being extremely resistant to rot, which makes it ideal for building houses and canoes. The wood also splits easily for the carving of bentwood boxes and cradles. The bark is harvested in the spring when the sap is running, and only from the sunrise side of the tree to encourage healing for the tree. A measurement from the thumb across the palm to the little finger is the permitted width of the cut. Once the cut is made, the individual grips the bark on the edge and begins to walk backwards from the tree. If the bark comes up short, this is a message to you from the tree that it is not ready to gift you with its bark, but you make a note of coming back to that tree in the next year's spring harvest. It is also a belief that if a person kills a tree by overharvest, the surrounding trees will curse that individual and everything they try to make with that bark. A big message for conservation from way back when. Following the harvest, the bark is bundled and set aside for weaving during the long winter months. When it is time to use the bark, it is soaked in water, beaten between two stones, and soaked in water again until it becomes so soft that you can weave it into baskets, mats, hats, and blankets. Repeating the process makes the bark so soft you can use it to swaddle babies.
We're seeing that image now. Thank you, Adria.
Beautiful boughs of the cedar tree. In the early spring, the boughs are placed in key areas of the shoreline where the herringfish lay their eggs. When the boughs are removed, they reveal a harvest of eggs that can be turned into a delicious soup or dried for winter use. Beneath the canopy of the large trees, we find Oregon grape. That's this right here.
It looks a bit like holly.
It does. It's like our version of holly. The roots and the inner bark of the stems contain a bright yellow pigment that can be extracted by boiling the bark in water. Wool and materials for weaving baskets are submerged into the solution to attain the desired yellow coloring. Adding a little wolf lichen obtained through trade from the peoples from the interior of British Columbia intensifies the color. And we should have an image of the berries coming up. Yeah.
Working on it. Yeah, it's nice to see the berries are so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Delightful.
Oh,
a bit tart.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, it's having a hard time sharing. I don't know why. Let's give it another couple seconds. Well, maybe we'll let that one go, Adria. We can maybe show it. We can try when we show slides again. We can maybe try that one again.
Sure.
Thanks for trying.
Well, it's important to know the berries are edible and can be dried like raisins for winter use, or it can be boiled with other berries until it forms a paste, which you can then spread out on a nice clean flat rock, place it next to the fire to dry, very carefully peeling it off, and you have a tasty fruit leather. Okay, also in this area,
Let's stop for a second. Let's see. You can't hear us very well, Jenny? Can you hear us? Just me. Oh, okay. Let me try this again. Now speak, Leslie.
can you hear me now?
Yes, okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
Okay, so if you didn't hear that, the berries are edible. Were often boiled down and with other berries and turned into a mash that was then placed on smooth flat stones and then placed next to the fire to dry. And once it was dry, you could peel it off as a tasty fruit leather. Okay, so in the same area here, we have sword ferns. I'm gonna bring out my magic pointer here. Right over here. Yeah. The fronds are used to line steaming pits, storage boxes, baskets, and berry drying racks. In the spring, the rhizomes were dug up, cleaned, and cooked in open fire pits, then peeled and eaten, usually with seal or bear grease or salmon eggs. But the sword ferns are also used in ceremonies and are considered to be sacred and therefore treated with reverence. Okay. What we see here, I'm going to use my magic pointer here, are the dried remnants of bracken fern. The fronds of the fern are very rough, very coarse, and were used when you were cleaning fish. You would cover the table with the fronds and they would keep the fish from sliding around.
Okay, and we're trying to get that slide up. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's what it looks like when it's nice and green.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, stop sharing the slide. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, well, so once the fronds were used for cleaning the fish, they were brought to the smokehouse and tossed in the fire there. And it was said that the fronds gave the fish a nice, appealing red color after being in the smokehouse. Yeah. Okay. What we might also see here, there are remnants of, there it is down there, horsetail. Down there, that sort of looks like bamboo. Right down there, stretched out on the log there.
I'm going to carefully step down.
There we go. The stems can be eaten in the spring by peeling away the scaly leaves from each node. The revealed inner bark was eaten raw or after boiling. The scratchy stems can be used as a light sandpaper to polish wooden objects like feast dishes or to smooth out the wood of a canoe.
I missed it. I don't know if the slide is up there. I was climbing back up the hill. I think we got a good picture with the camera though.
Good. Okay. What we're looking at here is referred to as a nursery log. These are decaying fallen trees that provide nutrients and shelter to many plants and animals. As they decompose, they provide a protective haven for new seedlings to germinate. While this is not a First Nations designation, the people know how important it is to stay on trails and respect the plants and animals that rely on nurturing sites like this one. It's also important to note that First Nations did not create their own trails. They followed the paths left behind by deer, elk, and bears. These paths often led to a fresh source of fresh water and favorite drinking pools, which helped to determine where to lay traps for hunting. Aside from minor resting sites, the people were always careful not to leave evidence of human presence on the trails that would alert animals to potential danger. Through their diligence, they were able to revisit the same trails each year. The moss that we saw on the log there is another example of a multi-purpose resource. It can be used for bedding and floor covering throughout the winter months, and also for covering food in the steaming pits. This is like a shallow hollowing out in the ground. You build a fire, let it burn down, and then line it with leaves and things and moss, and it will help steam food like fish or clams or anything like that. There's a species that thrives in swampy areas that is said to be so absorbent that it could be used for diapers and also for binding wounds. Okay, if we look up, way up, we might see it. No, we have it, definitely have a, yeah, there's only a few of our leaves dangling there, but up from the forest floor, we see young big leaf maple trees with the largest leaves of any native tree in Canada. We have that image to show you.
Yeah, all the leaves are gone in this forest, most of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, beautiful. That's a little earlier on in this fall.
They create this beautiful yellow and golden canopy over top, and it's just beautiful, especially in Mill Hill. You get a chance to check out the trails. There you go.
That one. That's where they once she's going to stop sharing the screen, and then you can.
Okay.
That's what they are.
So that's one of our leaves from the trees here. And as I mentioned, these are young maples. The more mature maples, the leaves are huge, and they're used for spreading under food or over food in steaming pits to add a pleasant flavor when you're cooking meat. The wood of the big maple can be used to carve canoe paddles, and in fact, in many of the Coast Salish languages, the word for the maple means paddle tree, because we can make the paddles from those specific trees. We'll give this back to nature. There we go. In the springtime, the people would scrape off the cambium with sticks made from ocean spray, and then they ate it fresh. Cambium is a sweet paste that's underneath the inner bark of the maple trees. It's a tasty treat after months of dried food through the winter. Ocean spray is a type of shrub that people refer to as ironwood for its hardness and strength. This wood was also used to make hooks for halibut fishing. I'm going to bring that image up for you.
I remember hearing that the Comox people, the Indigenous people in the Comox area, and I apologize, I don't know the correct name, they knew that the butter clams were ready to harvest when the ocean spray was in full bloom.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And they're absolutely beautiful, as you'll see from the image.
Yeah. Gorgeous. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Back to the forest floor, we see the beginnings of English, holly. And while this is looks very festive around the winter holiday season, it is an invasive species, and it blocks the growth of indigenous plants. So here at CRD, under the guidance of a very knowledgeable individual, CRD volunteers remove invasive species whenever they can to help encourage the growth of the indigenous plants from this region. Okay. We have now come full circle as we stand next to this keeper of history, Douglas fir. I'm always amazed at the size of these trees. The First Nations believe that everything has a living spirit, from the stones on the beaches to the trees in the forest. This belief guides the people as they prepare to harvest something as substantial as a tree. Thought is given to how long the tree has stood as a witness to the history of the land, which is often over 500 years. First Nations also believe that all animals must be allowed to have young of their own, so a tree cannot be taken down until it is no longer a home for birds and animals. And an elder must be present to offer prayers of acknowledgement to the tree for giving up its life, to help indicate where the best place is to make the first incision, to ensure the tree falls in a good way that's not going to damage surrounding trees and plants. And the elder also leaves a gift of gratitude in the area surrounding where the tree once stood. As you walk along the trails in CRD parks, please consider the dedication that First Nations have towards taking care of the land and everything within it, and how you too can care for these regional parks. On that note, we invite you to be allies by traveling lightly on ancestral lands, exploring respectfully, and being aware that when you stay on designated trails, you are helping to protect these lands for the ecosystems and the cultures that rely on them. Hakela thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you so much. I'm just going to, oh, no, Adria is showing one more slide. Oh yeah, beautiful trail shot of Mill Hill. Thank you, Adria. I'm just going to flip it around for a second. Thank you so much, Leslie. And thanks, I love the way you ended that because it reminds me, sorry about the hair. It reminds me that so many parks in North America are protecting ancestral lands, and they're not just there for recreational enjoyment, although we might get a lot of recreational enjoyment. They might be protected because of ecological significance. And at the same time, all of them protect ancestral lands. And so you just reminded me about people have been here for thousands and thousands of years and figured out thousands and thousands of years ago how to not only survive, but thrive in this environment. And it's astounding. So please, if there has any questions, now's the time to type them in the chat, and then Jenny can verbally say them if I don't see them. And while we're doing that, if you want to learn a little bit more about native plants and some of their uses that people have used for a long time, on our learning portal, the Royal BC Museum's learning portal, there is a pathway called Plants of the South Coast of BC, and there's some information there and some videos as well on how to identify some of those plants that Leslie, if you didn't catch all of that. And also the Royal BC Museum has published many books by Dr. Nancy Turner, who has worked with Indigenous communities for decades, and there's all kinds of ethnobotany, like the way people use plants in her books. And there's even one for folks that live around Victoria. There's one about specifically Saanich that she did with Dr. Richard Hebda. That's really good as well. I'm gonna mic you so Leslie can talk, and I'll put the camera back on Leslie, and we'll look at some questions here.
Just before we answer some of those questions, I wanted to acknowledge Dr. Nancy Turner for her work. She's been doing this for years and years, and it's important to acknowledge that she has always done this in the most respectful way with Indigenous people. She's basically been the avenue for sharing their knowledge, and has always been deeply respected and admired for the work she's done in such a good way.
So I'm seeing some comments. Jenny, if I'm missing a question, please. That was fabulous, so enjoyable. Thank you, Leslie. From Melissa. Oh, good, Melissa. I'm not seeing any questions, so we might be good to go. Seeing some more. Thank you for sharing. Lots of comments. I'm just going to give Jenny a second. Jenny, let me know if you've got something. Otherwise, we'll sign off.
Well, in the meantime,
sorry.
In the meantime, I would like to also share that the CRD is working very hard to maintain these parks, and there's a whole gamut of different people that work in the parks and have a different specific focus, but they collectively work towards maintaining and protecting these lands in such a respectful way. And I just wanted to say it's an honor to be a part of that team that's working around that. My team specifically is bringing information to our schools and to the general public about the importance of these parks and all the most interesting things you can see in these parks. And they're all different. They all have their specific species that you will find there. So they're well worth the visit. And it's just a wonderful way to spend your Saturday morning and taking a stroll through one of our parks. They're beautifully maintained and deeply respected.
There are some questions there, so I'll get Jenny to say them so you can hear them.
Yes, we have just a couple of questions. One is, are there any native plants that would be harvested only in winter?
Plants that are harvested only in winter? Well, right now we see different species of mushrooms popping up everywhere as the weather gets colder. And one of my favorites that we were looking at this morning on our walk was witch's butter. It's also called the survival mushroom because while it's very beautiful, it's a beautiful bright yellowy orange color. It's also not very tasty. It doesn't taste like anything, but there are nutrients in that mushroom. If you ever get stuck in the woods and it's cold and you see it, you can eat it. It's edible. But yeah, that's what we're seeing the most of right now, are different species of mushrooms popping up, not just in the ground, but also on trees. It's amazing.
And maybe add, people shouldn't pick them unless they know what they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. Unless you happen to be an expert. Yeah, you don't want to be, even the First Nations people knew not to pick the mushrooms because there were too many variables in the ones that were edible and the ones that weren't.
And the other one was very similar to that, is what's the best time of year for harvesting? And I believe you touched a bit on that in the beginning, about the color of the ground is very important to this.
Mm-hmm. It's if you're hunting and gathering, it's after the leaves have all fallen from the trees, or after the first snowfall. But the springtime is one of the biggest seasons for harvest. And this is because it is a season of celebration. We've been inside through the winter. So in the springtime, when the frogs start to sing, they're letting us know that spring is here. So this is when we will go into the forest, peel back the bark from the canes of salmon berries and thimbleberries. There's a little green shoot inside that's very, very tasty. It's kind of a celebratory thing to do after eating dried food all winter. Yeah, there's lots of different things like that that you can eat in the forests that are really good, especially in the springtime when they're nice and fresh.
And that is all the questions we have right now.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody. And I'm going to turn around so Leslie be in the background. You can see her there. Thank you all for joining us. And we'll have this up on the YouTube pretty soon. And we hope you'll come and join us on December 9th for our tour around Emily Carr's neighborhood in James Bay. Thanks everybody. Thanks again, Leslie. Okay, stay well. Bye-bye.